It was at my cousin Jason's lavish engagement party in a bustling, decorated banquet hall in suburban Chicago. The air thick with the smell of roast beef and expensive perfume. Where my mother, Cheryl, decided to perform her latest act of public demolition. Standing in the center of a circle of aunts and family friends, who were all boasting about their children's law degrees and corporate promotions, when she pointed a dismissive, tipped finger at the small, proud collection of achievement badges I'd earned in my first semester of community college, for marksmanship in a police cadet prep course, and for volunteer service, which I'd foolishly left visible on my blazer lapel. Her voice a clarion of contempt that sliced through the murmur of polite conversation as she announced, "Oh, don't mind those, everyone. My Sarah picked those up at some costume shop, or online." Trying to play dress up as someone important, pretending she's got what it takes to ever wear a real uniform in this country. But we all know the truth, don't we? And a ripple of uncomfortable laughter, mixed with pitying glances, washed over me. My face flushing a deep, burning crimson as I instinctively covered the badges with my hand, feeling the cheap metal pins dig into my palm. My own mother branding me a fraud in front of the very people whose respect I secretly craved. Her words, fake, costume, pretend, echoing like gunshots in the suddenly cavernous room, while my father looked away to examine a painting on the wall with intense interest, and my older sister gave a slight, complicit shrug, making me the sole, isolated target of a humiliation so complete I felt my soul shrink inside me. The dreams of one day standing tall in a genuine uniform of service evaporating under the heat of her scorn. And in that moment, surrounded by the clink of crystal and the hollow echo of familial betrayal, the tears that welled in my eyes were not just of shame, but of a profound, grieving loss for the mother I never had, for the home that was never a sanctuary. And as I stood there, frozen in the spotlight of her derision, I made a silent, iron-clad vow that I would leave this city and these people, and I would make every single one of those badges. I would earn the respect she said I could never own. And I would do it so thoroughly, so undeniably, that the next time she saw me, there would be no doubt, only the staggering, silent weight of her monumental error. The very next day, with a duffel bag packed so hastily, it contained more hurt than possessions, I used the last of my saved-up bookstore clerk earnings to buy a one-way ticket on an Amtrak train heading west, watching the Chicago skyline, a monument to ambition that had always felt closed to me, recede into the flat, gray horizon. My tears now falling in the rhythmic privacy of the train car's bathroom, a silent funeral for the girl who believed she needed her family's approval to breathe. Arriving 3 days later in Denver, Colorado, a city crowned by indifferent, snow-capped mountains that mirrored the cold, towering obstacle my life had become, where I rented a bunk in a noisy, transient hostel and began the grueling, anonymous slog of survival. First taking a job as an overnight stalker at a cavernous warehouse on the outskirts of town, heaving boxes under fluorescent lights until my back screamed and my hands were raw. Then working a second shift as a clerk at a rundown gas station, breathing in the stale smell of coffee and diesel, counting out change for strangers who never saw my face, surviving on packets of crackers and the occasional discounted, soggy sandwich. My hunger a constant companion, my sleep fractured and haunted by the echoing laughter from that banquet hall. Some nights crying myself to sleep on a thin mattress, wondering if my mother was right, if I was just a pretender destined for a life of invisible struggle, until one frigid winter morning, my beat-up car wouldn't start for the third time that week, and I faced a 5-mile walk through the biting Denver cold to my warehouse shift. The sheer physical misery of it. The numb fingers, the wind cutting through my thin jacket, crystallized into a white, hot core of defiance deep within me, a resolve that this punishing cycle would not be my forever, that I would channel every ounce of this pain into a purpose so concrete it could never be called fake again. With hands still trembling from the cold, I walked into a U.S. Marshals Service recruitment information session at a local community center, lured by a pamphlet that spoke of service, structure, and a clear path to a badge that no one could question. And though the road was mercilessly long, I attacked it with the desperate focus of someone with nothing left to lose, starting as a clerical assistant in a federal building, filing paperwork for years, while using every spare penny and minute to put myself through a criminal justice degree at night, the books piled next to my microwave dinner in my studio apartment. My social life a forgotten concept, my world shrinking to the twin poles of work and study, slowly, incrementally, proving my reliability, my calm under pressure, my meticulous attention to detail, earning recommendations that allowed me to transition into a deputy, U.S. Marshal, where I spent years in the gritty, unglamorous trenches of court security, prisoner transport, and fugitive task forces, my badges, now the official, weighty shield on my belt, and the credentials in my pocket, earned through cracked ribs in training, through sleepless nights on surveillance, through the solemn responsibility of protecting federal judges, through 1,000 small acts of integrity that built my reputation brick by brick in a world that valued actions over words. My transformation from the shamed girl in Chicago to a respected officer happening so gradually even I didn't fully see it, until the day I was chosen to lead a protective detail for a high-profile witness. My command calm and assured, my authority unquestioned by the burly, seasoned agents around me. And it was this steady, quiet excellence that eventually led to my nomination and selection for the elite U.S. Marshals Special Operations Group, a honor shrouded in secrecy and symbolized by a distinct, revered badge that few ever earn, culminating in a private, solemn ceremony at the Department of Justice in Washington, D.C., attended only by the director, a few high-ranking officials, and the silent, proud ghosts of my own journey. The ceremony, however, required a next of kin notification for my security clearance, a formal letter sent to my parents' address in Chicago, which is how, a month later, I found myself standing in the chilled, marble-lined Great Hall of that same federal building, not for my small ceremony, but to receive a Distinguished Service Award, this event semi-public and listed. And as I stood at the podium in my full dress uniform, the dark blue fabric sharp against my shoulders, the gold of my SG badge, and other service medals catching the light, delivering a short speech on the ethos of duty, I saw her, my mother Cheryl, a small, bewildered figure being escorted by a uniformed court security officer at the back of the room. Having used the public notice to somehow gain entry, her face a mask of confusion that slowly melted into dawning, cataclysmic shock as her eyes traveled from my face, down the official uniform adorned with real, earned insignia, to the respectful, attentive faces of the generals, judges, and marshals in the audience, and as I concluded and stepped down, 2 imposing honor guard marshals at the room's great doors, seeing my approach, snapped to perfect attention and rendered a crisp, silent salute, their white gloves sharp against the dark wood, a gesture of ultimate professional respect. And in that split second, I saw my mother's hand fly to her mouth, her eyes widening in a horror-stricken epiphany, the memory of her sneering costume shop, words crashing into the unimpeachable reality before her. The guards saluting, the officials nodding in respect, her daughter as a living institution of authority, and her carefully constructed world of belittlement shattered utterly, her body sagging as if the gravity of her mistake had become a physical force. Tears of not pride but of utter, devastating realization streaming down her cheeks as I walked past her, meeting her gaze for one brief, silent moment that held a lifetime of answered questions, before continuing down the hall. The click of my own heels on the marble, the only sound marking my passage, leaving her there in the shadow of the truth she could never take back. Because the most dignified revenge is not in confrontation, but in living a truth so potent and authentic that it forces every old lie to wither in its presence, proving that the strongest badges are not worn on the uniform, but forged in the silent furnace of perseverance and worn forever on the soul. ENDOFSTORY. YouTube and thumbnail optimization. Hi, CTR YouTube title. My mom called my badges fake. At my ceremony, even the guards saluted me. Emotional story. Thumbnail prompt for AI image generator. Cinematic photo, ultra realistic. A powerful, beautiful Caucasian woman in her late 20s with intense eyes, wearing an official, sharp U.S. Marshals Special Operations Group dress uniform with gold badges and medals. She is walking confidently past the camera. In the blurred background, an older woman is seen clutching her chest, face in utter shock and tears, mouth open. Dramatic lighting from the side, highlighting the uniform's gold and the daughter's determined profile. Style photorealistic, high contrast, emotional. Colors dark navy blue, gold mahogany. 2R16C9. Text overlay on thumbnail. She said my badges were fake. Watch the guard's reaction when I walked in. SEO. Optimized YouTube metadata. YouTube descriptions. This is the story of Sarah, whose mother humiliated her at a family party, claiming the badges she earned were fake costume jewelry. Follows Sarah's emotional journey from Chicago to Denver, through years of struggle as an overnight stalker and gas station clerk, to her relentless climb within the U.S. Marshals Service. Witness the powerful, silent moment at a high-level ceremony where her mother finally sees the truth, and even the honor guard snaps a salute. A story of quiet resilience, earning your worth, and the ultimate dignity of proven respect. Subscribe for more powerful stories of silent strength and proving them wrong. Shiapti Ars, Sa Severnodauser, the humiliation. Your badges are fake. 4C. 20 leaving everything behind. 15C10 the struggle in Denver survival jobs. 2845 the decision to serve. 40 way 30 the grueling from clerk to deputy. 55 the odored earning the elite badge. 15 undertay. 15 the ceremony invitation. 1C20 40 the final silent confrontation. Pay emotional story. Fe revenge story. RUS Marshals. Fe female empowerment. Fev proving them wrong. High family drama. Fe inspirational story. Pat silent strength. Fev badge of honor. Tags emotional revenge story. Mother-daughter drama. U.S. Marshals story. Female law enforcement. Proving family wrong. From nothing to hero. Inspirational USA story. Silent revenge. Badge of honor story. Emotional YouTube story. Long-form narration. AI voice story. Satisfying comeback story. Childhood humiliation. Earning respect. Ceremonial salute. Department of Justice story. Special Operations Group. Cinematic story. Adult bedtime story.